from Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports talking about how the Blazers have a list of players that they are targeting with that number 3 pick that they would hope would essentially appease Damian Lillard. I'll be honest, I looked at that list and it seems like, when you write something to Santa Claus and you're just hoping that shows up under the tree. Bam Adebayo's name, like talk about flipping the script. Like, no, the idea is that Dame goes to Miami, not that you somehow convince Pat Riley to part ways with one of his favorite Heat players of all time. I have a hard
Pat
time.
Riley loves him some 19-year-olds, as we know.
Yeah. Big draft guy. And I just covered the finals with those guys, and it's like to hear Udonis Haslem talk about Bam, to hear Jimmy Butler talk about Bam, like this dude is going to go up in the rafters in Miami. I don't see him going anywhere. So it feels like Joe Cronin and that Blazers group is, holding out hope, certainly, that they can do something to keep Dame there. But on the back end of the draft, if they don't land any of those types of players, and I don't expect that they will, that's just my 2 cents, then I do think the noise around Damian Lillard is going to get loud pretty quick. That's kind of where I see this going. The connective tissue to the Beal situation, of course, is that, Phoenix looked at this situation and knew that if they waited too long, that Damian would be part of this equation, most likely, and they would have more competition. So, they go ahead and they get this deal done. That leaves Miami in this game of star player musical chairs waiting on Dame. And I think he'd be an incredible fit. I don't know, in terms of offers, what would be out there beyond, they're going to have competition, but I guess in general, I don't know who wants to take the mic.
Well,
but
you mentioned it right there. They will have competition. This
Right.
isn't a Wizards situation. There isn't not a no trade clause. You could get a really good haul for him, and you could, obviously they're going to work with Damian Lillard to try to direct him to a place he wants to go, just because of their, if this happens, by the way, because of their longstanding relationship. But theoretically, if it happens, Portland's set up well for the future. You got Shaedon Sharpe, who looks like was a solid pick last year. You have theoretically either Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson, and then you have whatever you get back for Lillard, whatever package that is of picks and maybe young players. Simons is a solid, tanking, guard to just kind of give the ball to next year, have him shoot it 25 times. I really like the situation that Portland's set up for if they do move off Lillard. But there is this gravitational pull that remains to try to make it work with Damian Lillard. And sure, if you get, Zion Williamson or Bam Adebayo or somebody coming in there, maybe you could theoretically see, they could be a fringe contender next year. I still kind of don't see it. I think it's time, as the Wizards just showed us, pull the trigger when you should pull the trigger.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's time too. But and I also think Dame doesn't have a no trade clause, but he is going to have a ton of say in where he goes. It's not like they're just going to send him off to whoever makes the best offer and that's it. I'm sure Miami will be a contender for him if that's on the table, but it's not like Miami can make an unbelievable offer, right? It's a couple of far out first round picks, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and that's kind of your offer. Maybe you throw in Nikola Jovic, and that's the Miami offer. That's it. It's not an unbelievable offer. It's a good offer. It's not incredible for Damian Lillard, I wouldn't say. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm also so curious if they do trade Dame about all of the secondary reactions that are going to follow. Okay, Jeremy Grant's free agent now. Where's Jeremy Grant going? That's now a good free agent who everybody has kind of assumed that Portland was going to pay whatever it took to keep. Now all of a sudden that's a really good free agent who could help basically any team win. Where's he going to go? Who's going to pay him? Is Portland going to be able to pull off a sign-in trade? Because most of the room teams are not the teams that are going to necessarily need a guy like Jeremy Grant. And if a really good team wants to trade for Jeremy Grant, what can Portland get back for him? So I agree. I mean, they should be able to get something really good for Lillard if they choose to go in that direction, or if Lillard chooses to go in that direction. And it's not even just him. You might be able to get something in the Grant sign and trade, and you might be able to, I guess Nurkic would probably just stick around. But there are other effects as well.
I might have recency bias. because I say this every once in a while, as far as just, being struck by the trends of the league. I don't remember a summer with this many, like, we'll see what actually bears out. Beal has been dealt, but with this many high profile guys, conceivably on the move. And New Orleans is another spot that is probably worth getting into in the context of Portland. And similar theme and vein there, where the futures of Zion Williamson, to a lesser degree, Brandon Ingram, there's nothing negative happening with Brandon in New Orleans. It's just the idea that New Orleans has got a lot of interest in Portland's number 3 pick, reportedly. But man, that's another one where I'm curious your guys' thoughts on these different Blazers hypothetical scenarios. If, and this has not happened to this point, but if New Orleans does call as we get closer to draft day here and put Zion in particular on the table, man, Fred, you talk about a guy in Beal with that combination of health history and question marks and uncertainty. Zion's a whole different ball of wax when it comes to that type of deal, because he's an MVP caliber player when he's on the floor, but that's a major qualifier. I guess let's just kind of game that one out a little bit. If that did happen, if that does happen, how should Portland respond there?
I feel like there are a lot of people who are going to disagree with me on this, but if I can go get Zion Williamson, like, go get Zion Williamson. Like, I just, it's worth the risk. I get the injury risk. I get it. He never plays. If he can figure out a way to play, that dude could literally be an MVP. Like, the most enjoyable moment in basketball to me, like my favorite thing to watch in basketball, is the last 6 or 7 minutes of a close New Orleans game when Zion is healthy and the Pelicans say, you know what, Zion, you're running point the entire time. Zion, bring the ball up every single time, and you're just going to run the offense. And Zion goes wherever he wants. He has become a fabulous passer. He gets to the rim whenever he wants. I mean, like, I feel like him and Giannis are the only 2 dudes in the league who can say, okay, I think I'm going to go, and Jokic, I guess, but in a different fashion, who could say, I think I'm just going to go here and I'm going to take this shot this way. And it is completely up to me whether or not I make it. There's nothing a defender can do.
Continue your fever dream, though. They're playing against the Raptors, and Jakob Poeltl is the rim protector on the other side. And it's Zion against Jakob Poeltl for 5 minutes of a close game.
Well, I would just pass out. I wouldn't be able to watch it. My eyes would roll the back of my head and I would pass out. I don't think I'd wake up.
Meeting at the summit and a reporter has passed out on press row.
Yeah. I think they'd have to like cancel the game. It would be just sensory overload. I wouldn't be able to.
Hey, Jakob Poeltl, unrestricted free agency coming. I feel like that'll be a topic next week when we really dive into free agency.
We'll see who wants to max him out.
This is when you know that Slater's ready for the pod to be over. He's throwing Jakob Poeltl free agency scenarios at you.
Well, Zion is extraordinary when he's on the floor, and he is 22? Like, this is not some dude who is on the wrong side of his prime and is now starting to break down. I get it. When you're 22 and you have the injury history already, it could get even worse as you get older. I get it.
What's the comp?
Unbelievable.
What's the comp for Zion? There isn't one, but not the player comp, but things I cannot remember, like
Embiid.
Oh yeah, a little bit, like the idea that like supreme transcendent talent, but then the uncomfortable physical discussion. Where, my goodness, you have Charles Barkley, the round mound of rebound, publicly talking about how he wants to mentor Zion and calling him out for, not taking good enough care of his body. Even teammates, CJ McCollum has said things. Now you have, subplots like the Pelicans parting ways with longtime trainer Aaron Nelson, who was celebrated from his Phoenix Suns days. And there's a Zion component there, to be sure.
There's also, and we definitely don't need to get into the details of it, but there's also this online thing going on with him that has to do with his personal life that, like, I think sheds a little light on, like, things are just
distractions. And yeah, that's fair. His off-court social media love life.
I wouldn't even care about it. I wouldn't even care. He's 22 years old. He is capable of being the best player on the floor on
Okay,
any
would you
given
rather
night against anyone.
You would rather have Zion on he's already on the first year of this full max, or Scoot Henderson? Who would you rather? Who entering year one of his career and on a much cheaper deal with more years of control, obviously.
Are we talking about Portland? Or are we talking about just in general?
Charlotte, Portland. I mean, those are really the two teams we'd be talking about. So
yeah, but let's keep it like actual, relevant. So let's say Portland.
My real answer is I don't know enough about the draft to give an honest answer because I don't have an opinion on Scoot Henderson. I just haven't seen him play enough. I don't follow the draft well enough to know. I guess I probably, if I'm Portland, I would rather have Scoot Henderson because I think Portland should tear it down.
Well, more importantly, guys, this is not reporting by any means. I would have a hard time thinking that Dame would, I'm sure he respects the hell out of Zion, but that Dame would look at Zion and say, okay, let's go. This is now here, watch out, Nuggets, here we are. Not because of the talent, but because of any player in the NBA who becomes teammates with Zion is going to look at his track record and say, all right, but like, is he going to play? He's going to have the same questions that we do. That's where, I guess, to take it back to the Blazers and their uncertain future and where I think this is going, maybe, Joe Cronin pulls a rabbit out of the hat. I'm not seeing the scenario where it says, go get me that guy who is attainable, and then all is well with Dame and the Portland chapter will continue.
Yeah, these are the questions that will be asked and answered in the next, 48, 72 hours.
I think we all agree that Portland is best tearing it down. Shaedon Sharp's really good. You can get a great player.
Yeah, but I think we all know that we would have said this about Portland the last 2 seasons probably, and they've decided not to. So I'm not sure I expect them to be honest.
It's up to Dame.
West. They're Wizards West.
It's been up to Dame, and what choices Dame always made at the end of the day.
Yeah, I hear you. But, man, he's what is Dame, 33 now?
10 toes down, Sam. Make another podcast name for you.
32. I'm trying to age him. He's 33 in July, but he's coming up on 33. Now, we'll see.